Meeting. All right. We got go. Test. Test. Yeah. Try it again.
Yeah. Click.
We try one more time?
Testing. That's a little better. It's better? Okay. All right, it's 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock on April 22nd. We're going to start the FedRAC meeting. We'll call the meeting to order. Let's see. Is there any public comments?
No public comments today.
Okay, moving on to the next item agenda then will be community business. Item A is approval of the minutes, March 2025.
I move that we approve the minutes.
I have a motion, I'll second that. Motion is second.
I'm not on the committee, but there's a couple of very minor errors in the minutes. One on who was there. I was there, and it doesn't show that I was there, and it says I was not there. And also it says the next meeting, in the very end, it says the next meeting is April 1st, which is when the next,
Which is probably what it was when we did something.
well, no, that's where the next council meeting was, not the next committee meeting. So I just happened to see that, but those are not significant enough to.
We can fix those typos. Thank you for pointing them out.
Do you want to do a
Thank you.
motion?
I suggest before we vote that I change the motion to add that Jack Walsh was present at our meeting and that the date was not April 1, but today, April 22nd.
Do we need to second that again, or just go forward? No. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Moving on to agenda item B, request for authorization to apply for the 2025-2027 Washington Auto Theft Prevention Authority, WATPA grant. Chief.
Yeah. Good evening, Committee Chair McDaniel, Council President Kochmar, council members. The Police Department is requesting authorization to apply for WASPIC grant for the Puget Sound Auto Theft Task Force. And also, if grant is awarded, that we be able to accept it. I do want to tell you that we were facing a deadline. The deadline was April 1. And when they sent me the information, I did apply. Clearly, if the council committee doesn't approve, we can withdraw our application. But I just want to let you know that I did approve the application and did submit it. We have a really good chance of obtaining the grant. This grant is over $3.7 million. It will pay for a supervisor, 7 detectives, a crime analyst, and also fiscal costs. We're the fiscal agent for this grant, so there's some funding for that as well. The task force was formed 2017. Okay.
The full effect.
Okay.
Oh. We're not actually on.
I felt somebody was coming up. I was trying to figure out friend or foe.
Sorry.
So this task force was formed 2017. So it's a task force combined South King County police agencies and Pierce County law enforcement agencies, State Patrol. There's a total of 12 police agencies that are part of the interlocal agreement, but not all agencies in the 12 in the interlocal agreement participate. Recent years, State Patrol, because of staffing, they actually pulled out. So last year funding was supervisor plus 6 detectives, eventually went to 7. So we applied for a supervisor and 7 detective positions. Tremendous impact. Auto theft right now is down significantly. 2023, we had over 46,000 stolen vehicles statewide. We're back down to about 26,000 stolen vehicles. And I would attribute that to significant number with the reversal in the pursuit law. It's just dramatically reduced, made the streets safer, because police can now, State Patrol will now chase you if you're doing 100 miles on the freeway. Prior to the no pursuit law, I mean, we couldn't chase. So people felt free to just drive as fast as they wanted because the police can't catch you or come after you. So the task force goes after prolific individuals or groups, and we've been able to make significant arrests and impact with these groups, Kia Boys and so forth. So we've had tremendous success, and I'm really confident that when they go present to the WAPA board that we will be funded. We will be the fiscal agent until June or so. We submitted the application, but we've been the fiscal agent since 2017. So I have a conversation with WASPIC and the chiefs to say, hey, we're going to relinquish being the fiscal agent starting July 1. So they're working towards finding another agency to be the fiscal agent. I am the chair of the executive board, and I've been doing that for years. And also, there may be change with that too, just because I've been doing it for so long. But this is a great thing for Federal Way. The next line item, we're going to be actually I'm hoping we can send a supervisor to run this task force. It's come up for our turn to lead the group. So I'm hoping for committee approval so that this can go to the council meeting consent agenda for your approval.
Councilmember Dovey.
Yeah, Chief. I guess could you clarify, because I'm not quite clear what we're doing. Are these gonna be new employees that are here in Federal Way? Or where are you gonna get the people, or are they coming from other agencies?
The team already exists.
The team already exists?
Already exists. The supervisor right now is a Lakewood sergeant. He's retiring, June. So they're looking for a new supervisor, and I'm hoping to send a Federal Way lieutenant to be the supervisor of the task force. The detectives are already in place. We currently have the 7 detectives, and so the team is already in place. We just need the funding to continue.
And the funding gets continued, comes to Federal Way, and then we reimburse all these positions? Is that
Correct.
So do they become our staff, or are they still the task force, and we're just, I don't know, the bank? We're paying their salaries and all the costs, but they're not going to become our employees.
They're not our employees. Only employee they will have this coming year, hopefully, will be the lieutenant. But no, they're from different agencies, and we just reimburse them when they send us an invoice.
I see. So we're the bank. We
Yes,
get the
sir.
money from whoever, and we're the bank.
Yep, we're the
Chief,
fiscal agent.
we reimburse the cities, correct? We don't reimburse employees directly.
Right, the city, where they come from.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, I guess to follow up on that one, I just want to clarify, so the grants, I think for 4 million, it goes to the city just sits on it like Councilmember Dovey has said, and then we reimburse the cities who are part of that group. Is the lieutenant that we'll talk about in the next part of this grant funding then?
Yes,
Okay,
it's all included. If you need the exact number, I have it here. It's
4.186.
right, $4.4 million.
Yeah.
Yep, just over
I
40.
wasn't sure, we were trying to figure that out earlier, what was going on in that one. In that case, if there's no other questions, I'll ask for a motion.
Sure. I move to approve submitting the proposal grant application and authorize the city, the chief of police to accept the said grant.
Councilmember, we need the committee recommendation.
What's that? Did I
We
read
need
the
the
wrong
committee
one?
motion?
Excuse me.
Yep.
I move to forward the proposed grant application acceptance if awarded on behalf of PSAIT to May 6, 2025 for the consent agenda.
I'll second that motion. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 2-0. Thank you. And then just for the record, I forgot earlier on, Paul McDaniel, Sitting Council Chair. Committee Member Dovey is to my left. Councilmember Susan Honda is in attendance to my right. Council President Linda Kochmar, and then also Councilmember Jack Walsh is also in attendance. And I believe Community Member Tran Han is excused. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. Moving on to Committee Business B, request for authorization to apply, C, backfilling a police lieutenant position for the Puget Sound Auto Theft Task Force, PSATT. Chief, you have that one.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I feel like I got the most important part done. We got the funding. Now, the second part is the task force commander, who was also assigned to Lakewood, contacted me and asked if we could assign Lieutenant Christopher Cruzy, who's assigned to our investigation section. He was a former task officer. He actually goes to their conferences and provides training on auto theft and VIN identification. So he's a subject matter expert. So they contacted us and asked if we could sign Lieutenant Cruzy to the task force. So based on that, I'd like to send him to the task force, but what I'm looking for is someone to backfill him here while he's assigned to the task force. The cost, salary, and benefit is 100% reimbursable. So there's no cost to the city. It would be absolutely just a wash. So I'm asking committee to allow the police department to promote someone else to replace Lieutenant Cruzy when he goes to the task force, and he would go in June.
Councilmember Dovey.
Could you clarify how long he'll be gone?
It's a 3-year assignment.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes it gets extended. And if for any reason he is returned to our agency because of lack of funding or any other issue, we would just, whoever was promoted, last promoted, would go back to officer position. So we wouldn't carry any more lieutenant position.
So will that, you go through the upgrade, he goes there, somebody else comes into his position, then are you going to be one officer short? Because you're going to promote somebody, I'm assuming, or find somebody, and, it's a chain effect all the way down to the bottom?
Officer position would get promoted, but we would just hire someone else. The total number of sworn would not change because we're getting our $229,000 reimbursement. So there's.
I'm not so worried about the money, because I get the reimbursement, but the time for when he leaves, which is a few months down the road, assuming this all happens, do you have somebody else that's coming into the pipeline that's ready to fill the backfill?
Yes,
Because you'll be one officer in your.
we'll be
force.
short,
Yeah.
yep. That we would have to hire to bring it to we're authorized 151. In the
Sure.
biennial budget, we're 154. We would, yes.
And so,
Higher.
and the downtime for that officer, what, are we gonna be short for 3 months? Or, because they don't just come in unless you get a lateral and get them up and running.
It could be up to a year, but we're continual hiring. I could tell you right now that we have 7 or 8 conditional offers out. Currently, we just have 1 vacancy.
I see.
So we're way ahead of the curve of what we used, the position that we're in. Like next month, we're gonna have 6 people graduating from the academy, and they'll be deployed in training. So we're definitely gaining.
Good, okay, thank you.
Council President Coachman.
Oh, thank you very much, Chair. So, just out of curiosity, when he comes back after the 3-year period, then he goes back to his lieutenant position, Cruzy?
Yes.
Okay, and then the one that has been promoted to lieutenant retains his lieutenant position?
Depending on, if there's any more, let's say that anybody else leaves and there's more promotions, it'll be whoever promoted last. And whoever gets promoted last knows that
Oh,
if this
that's the-
position
that's
comes
the way it
back,
works.
they go back down to officer status.
Okay.
In reality, Lieutenant Cruzy has expressed that this will be his last assignment, that he
Oh.
intends on retiring out of
I
here
see.
unless
Oh.
he didn't get the funding or something.
Oh, okay, and then how many officers do we have now total?
We have 144 hired. We have 7 or 8 that are, about 7 that have conditional job offers, so they'll be coming on. And then we have 1 vacancy. So if maybe 7 or 8 to officially hire left.
So that makes us our total amount that we had planned, correct?
Yeah, we're shooting for 154.
Okay.
That's what we're, total authorization for the whole biennial budget. And we believe we'll be close to, there's always attrition and there's always some vacancy here and there, but we are getting to a point where we're getting close to being fully staffed.
Thank you.
She asked my question. Okay. Councilmember Honda.
So I'd like to follow up on that, Chief. So we have 144 officers. we have 7 who have conditional job offers, but they're not working for us they're not boots on the ground, correct?
Oh, yeah, they're not.
So how many officers do we actually have that are boots on the ground?
Okay, so we're 144 hired. I'd have to look at how many are in the academy, but let's say maybe there's, after May, we're gonna have 6 graduating. So let's say we have, oh, I don't know, I'm gonna just say 12. So we would have maybe 132 deployed right now.
So have we hired the officers with the COPS grant? Or is that being held up by the federal government?
What we do is we sign new officers to the COPS grant funding. So we are already collecting on the COPS grant.
Oh, so that wasn't impacted by whatever's going on in Washington? That funding?
The funding, yeah, the funding is still, there was a little bit of a issue that came up. There was a threat that we're gonna pull the funding, and then it got reversed. So yes, we have access to the COPS grant funding, and we bill them quarterly to be reimbursed.
So we have 132 cops on the ground. So does that mean we have 132 police vehicles? I asked the question of the vouchers, if every officer had their own vehicle.
Everyone who is working the field, and then there's a little bit of a period, they have to be done with FTO training. And after that, there may be something else, a certain period, they don't get it, but yeah, after they meet all the requirements, they get a car. And yes, every officer who is deployed out of FTO has a patrol vehicle, or detectives have plane vehicles, yes.
So if they're at FTO, that's a year position? They're there for a year after the academy?
No, the academy's about 5 months, and then they're in their FTO training 4 months or so. They go through 3 different phases, and then we have a shadow phase, and that's about another 4 months. But some recruits get extended based on training performance. So generally speaking, another 4 months or so, then they're on their own.
So that we don't have 132 police vehicles? We have less of that? So in the vouchers, there are 4 police vehicles that were purchased. I'm just trying to figure out how many police vehicles we still have to purchase and how the budget looks for that.
I would tell you that I haven't heard of shortage of patrol vehicles. So we have spare patrol vehicles when the vehicle's in the shop and so forth, and our fleet management manages all that. But operationally, every year we got to purchase patrol vehicles because sometimes vehicles cycle out. You know, we have a 7-year rotation. We have to buy a certain number of vehicles to make sure that at some point, you know, we don't run out of vehicles. So adequate funding for that is really important. But in terms of operation, I'm not asking them exactly how many cars we have or not on a regular basis, but I do know that we have officers who need a car, they all have one. We make sure that that occurs. That's why we got to buy vehicles every year, just to make sure that we can do that operationally. Because the worst case scenario is we don't have enough cars for officers. That's not, nobody wants to be in that place.
Correct.
Then they're not deployable.
So every month, when I look at the vouchers, we're buying 2 to 4 or 5 cars for the police department. Is that going to continue every month for the rest of the year?
Yeah, it's just timings. Let's say each year we need 12 vehicles or 14 vehicles a year. We budget for that. And then during the course of the year, we're purchasing vehicles, whatever council has authorized. So it's just a timing of when we're paying the voices. But no, every month, we're not going to be buying 2 or 4 vehicles. That would be 50, 60 vehicles a year. We don't budget that many. But whatever we budget for the year, 12, 18 vehicles, that's what we're going to purchase for the year.
Okay, then my next question is on Sunday, I was out driving and there was a police car on First Avenue that had been in a car accident.
Yes.
I hope the officer is okay. The car lights were on, but no one else was there. I didn't see any other cars there. The car was there by itself. I'm sure the officer was inside the car. When there's an accident with one of our vehicles, what is the process with that? Is the car is obviously out of service. It looked like it had a great deal of damage to it. What, is officer okay, first of all?
I think there were minor injury in that, but the officer's going to be okay, yes.
So that we have cars for that officer when he's ready, or he or she is ready to come back to work?
Yep. If in that case, they'll drive one of the spare vehicles that we keep here at the PD for those situations.
Okay, thank you.
All right, just to follow up on that one, so if I understand correctly, with the vehicle purchase scenario, pretty much for the remainder of the city's life, every month pretty much we'll have at least budgeted out 1 to 2 vehicles, depending on how many officers we actually have then, for the 7-year cycle, correct?
Yeah, whatever we budget, depending on what we buy, sometimes it goes to a system for public safety, and they have to equip all the vehicle out, fix it all up with the cage and lights and sirens and all that. So depending on how fast they can get it done, and they're a busy company because they're doing it for many, many, many cities. So we're just like in the queue. And sometimes we'll get a vehicle done and we'll get it this month. Sometimes we don't get it done for a while. Sometimes there's a year where you have to order the vehicle way in advance because you're not going to get the vehicle for a year or a year and a half. So you have to like plan ahead. But there isn't that kind of a threat now. But there have been times where there were not enough patrol vehicles to purchase, nationwide, shortage.
And
I hope that answers your question, sir.
Yeah, it was just,
Okay.
yeah, it does. The last question on that one is vehicles, is how many vehicles do we actually have on the road with all the patrols at a given time?
Well, depending on the time of day. So what we do at the PD is we have a minimum staffing. From day shift, let's say from midnight to noon, the least number of a patrol officers assigned, minimum, is 7.
Okay,
But I would tell you then, on a day shift, it's not, they might have 7, but then you got your 4 traffic officers. Then you have your special operations unit. You have 5, school resource officers. But then there's certain days where 2 shifts, squads, will do overlap, where they're all working. So on a given day, you might have, let's say nobody takes time off. There's 10 or 12 signed to a squad. You could have 10 or 12 working. But people need to take time off, so we only allow it down to 7. But then we have all the other specialty units during the day. Now, from noon till midnight, our minimum patrol, just patrol officers, is 9.
okay.
So you'll hear like, oh, you only have 7 officers assigned, but that's really rare occurrence because I just told you got all the detectives who can also respond. Command level people can respond. So when we have a major incident, you could have a huge response.
Yeah, you could have between 7 to 20 vehicles out there, depending on, like you said, time of day and what's going on for the situation.
Sure, or even more, yeah.
All right. That was the main question I had. Well, thank you. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve the proposed backfill of the police lieutenant for the, got the wrong one, sorry. I move to forward the proposed backfill of the police lieutenant for the duration of the PSAIT supervision to the May 6, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
I will second that motion. Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Chief. Have a good night.
Thank you. Lieutenant Cruz will be very happy. Good night.
Does he keep one of our cars?
Keep one of our cars?
Does he drive one of our cars then?
Yeah, he'll be assigned a vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
We should get reimbursed for that.
We get reimbursed.
Yeah, hopefully. All right, moving on to committee business D, AP vouchers 3/16/2025 to 4/15/2025, and payroll vouchers 3/01/25 to 3/31/2025. And that does not look like Dave, but we'll go with it. Director Grooms.
Thank you, Chair. As always, we bring you a month's worth of accounts payable and payroll vouchers. And we're calling it March, but I noticed, I went back 20 years to see why do we bring the AP through the 15th of the month, which is only a few days ago, and then the payroll was through 3/31. And I found out we've been doing that for 20 years. But the AP vouchers, every month, in your memo, we try to highlight all of the ones that each category that's got over $100,000 of spending. And the reason is if we cover all of that, then we can compare month to month to see what's different, but we can also see what the most material spending is. Lately, construction has been by far the biggest construction, the biggest spending account, 1.9 million. And if you looked at the check register, you would have seen 2 checks written on April 15th, just a few days ago, that totaled $1.9 million. If it wasn't for the M&O project, our construction spending would be quite a bit less. It would still be over $100,000. Similarly, our professional services was over $1 million, and that can be explained largely by one check that we wrote to Axon Enterprises, and that, of course, is the annual licensing and all the body cameras and tasers and the things that we do. And that is the body camera spending, because we spend it annually, and here we are early in the year. We have done a lot of spending early in the year. We do that every year with insurance. We do it with election expense. We do it with quite a bit of IT licensing, and that's just another example. So that's going to pop up later when I explain to you why our interest revenue is down in the early part of the year, because we've spent a lot of cash. And then with our payroll spending, as is typical, when we come to the quarter of the payroll, when we include the payroll taxes, why our spending is up a little bit more. Since construction spending is so significant, I have started bringing you the amount of unspent bond proceeds, which is also indicated by the red bars on my cash trend graph. So that is as interesting and as complete as I can bring you and make it meaningful on what we're spending. As always, Councilmember Honda sends us quite a few questions, and I didn't think I was going to get them all answered, and you had the chief answer the 2 that I couldn't. But I will still admit that if you want to reserve the right to ask further questions, email us. We will always get you the answers that you need. We will do the research. That's everything I've got for this agenda item.
All right. Councilmember Honda.
So I have a question on the vouchers. I asked about the dry cleaning, and Regal Cleaners is in Des Moines, and you agreed that that's where it is.
Yes.
Is there a reason that we don't use a Federal Way dry cleaner for our police officers for their dry cleaning? We have a lot of dry cleaners here in Federal Way. I'd rather give business to a local company than someone in another city.
I don't know. I'll retrieve the chief tomorrow and see if I can find out the answer to that. I could speculate, but I don't think I will.
I know the answer.
Oh, do you?
So, yeah, like all contracts, this is sent out for an RFP or a bid, and so they were the lowest bidder.
So we have to take them even though they don't?
We cannot give preference to a local Federal Way vendor based on locality. It's lowest bid.
Okay, well, thank you.
I thank you, too.
That's unfortunate. Yep, thank
Is
you.
that state law, city law, or which law is that?
This is actually local.
Local, city
Because
law?
it's not a public
Okay.
works contract. It's been our policy forever, but
Okay.
So we could change that if you wanted to.
let me look into that.
Okay.
I'm not sure if there's not something deeper to that, but it is not dictated by state law. I know that.
Okay.
Often in purchasing, we look to lowest responsible bidder, and sometimes you look for quality. Sometimes you look for a service history, and you might have a lowest bid, or you might have a local vendor that it doesn't represent the city well in the product that you get, so.
And that's a fair point. I said lowest bidder. There's more than one criterion. The price is usually worth between 40 and 50% of the points allocated. So performance is important.
Well, I would like more information because I would like to support those businesses here in the city. If we
Sure,
could
and I
possibly.
sure would too, because the sales tax comes back to, yes, I absolutely agree with you. We can pursue this and get a better answer.
Thank you.
Happy to do that.
Appreciate it.
I see no more questions. Can I have a motion, please?
You bet. I move to forward the vouchers to the May 6, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
I will second that. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, item E, monthly financial reports, March 2025. Director Groom.
And I'm going to give you a little extra credit tonight because I peeked at the agenda. Now, initially, we had a few other agenda items that were proposed for this meeting, but they've been bumped to next FedRec. So next month, I don't think we're going to have this short an agenda. So and you've been asking questions that I really do want to try to start getting to, and so we'll talk about that. As always, I want to give you an inflation update. For 2 months consecutively, we have gotten a decrease in the national inflation. We were at 3% inflation 2 months ago, and then it's come down to 2.8 and 2.4. And of course, that dotted red line is what the Fed is really trying to get us down to. So that's continued optimism. Our sales tax revenue, as you saw in your packet, we are 3% unfavorable to budget, and we are 4% over prior year. And, you know, this triangle graph where I show the shaded wedge for our budget and the thin blue line for the prior year, and then the red line as it's progressing, that doesn't serve us particularly well. As we look, if I wanted to forecast out to the end of the year, in order to hit budget, we would have to exceed the prior year by 8%. So right now, we're exceeding prior year by 4%. Now, that's encouraging because inflation, if it's 3%, then that means, okay, if 3% of that is inflation pricing, I'd like to think that 1% is new volume. But now, I don't remember approving a budget that said 8% increase to you. Well, the reason is because we were approving a budget when we still didn't know the last few months of the prior year, and now we do. So math works out funny that way. But it turns out, you know, that 4% works out to about $800,000. So that's the delta that we're looking for. Now, if I instead show you the graph that shows every January this year and the prior four, and then, you know, the Januaries compared to prior Januaries, February compared to prior Februaries. This shows that we've had one significant month over prior year, and then February just fell just a touch short, but cumulatively, February, we're a touch over prior year. However, we're not meeting budget. So we are looking at the rest of the year. What do we really believe to be true about the rest of the year? What do we think is going to be happening with the economy, with local interest rates, with our local businesses? And so that's where we start to think about what do we believe to be true about our city as we make decisions where sales tax, this is the scale of this graph was 20 million. This is the most significant revenue to the city, and I think we all know that. Now, in the news recently, you may have seen that Seattle was reported to have a $241 million, that's $million, my title error, Seattle's $241 million budget shortfall. I read it and I don't remember where I saw it in the media, so I went straight to the Seattle finance page, and it was actually in their April 16th, 2025. They did an economic and revenue forecast. 73 pages, quite a document. The reason that they are discussing a shortfall, this is in their pessimistic plan. Some businesses and cities do a optimistic, pessimistic, and somewhere in the middle. Well, their pessimistic scenario, the biggest place where their budget shortfall comes from is from payroll expense tax. That's the tax on the payroll of their most significant, largest employers. The business, the B&O tax is their second largest one. And then sales tax and REIT, they're also projecting worst case that they have shortfalls in sales tax and REIT. And that kind of compares to us, but when we start comparing cities, and I talk to other finance directors from other cities, I don't ever look at Seattle. They're so drastically different from us. However, so are the lesser cities too. But I just wanted to arm you with that little bit of information because you get asked, how does our city, why, other cities have got serious problems. does ours.
Yeah,
We don't have a payroll expense tax. We
But
don't have a
Steve,
B&O tax.
and I agree with you, payroll tax and B&O, which we don't have either in Federal Way,
Yeah,
aren't an issue, but 9.3 million in sales tax, and we're showing that we're short, even though, you know, you said we're ahead of where we would be, but we are short. I mean, that's the driver, and we know REIT's not gonna come anywhere near where it's supposed to. So, I mean, I get it why they're having a problem, because they tax people for things they shouldn't tax,
Yep.
probably. But we still have to be watching the sales tax and the REIT, because
absolutely.
because according to that last graph, the sales tax is not performing, and I don't know any logical reason why it's gonna have a big boom.
Yeah, yeah, and we don't have and no other city in the state has a downtown like Seattle's downtown, so, yeah.
Well, they don't have one anymore, do they?
Yeah.
So I'll concede
Point
that
proven.
point, and then, yeah. Now, I also found a little graph that they found that I found useful. I'm taking use of their staff time here. They do a forecast in April, they do a forecast in August, and they do a forecast in October. I don't have a staff to do any of that, but according to them, they know 0 to 20% of their revenue by April, and they say they only know 40 to 50% of their revenues are known by October. Yeah, and ours come in on a lag. You know, we know that we get our state revenues on a 2-month lag and our county revenues on a 1-month lag. So this is another thing that we don't have the dependencies and the revenues that they do, but we do kind of have their revenue lagging problems, and we have to make decisions just like they do based on what we know.
Council
So
President.
back to our own data. Unrestricted utility tax. This one has come up year-to-date. We are both favorable to budget and prior year. Now, favorable to budget's only $120,000. That's not very much, and that's not going to offset some of our other negatives. So we're still concerned, we're still watching it, and we're, you know, this is our second largest general fund revenue. Permit fees is not performing well. This one is unfavorable to budget, $473,000, and it's under prior year by $330,000. And you can see by that triangle graph, the red line is substantially below both budget and prior year. So if I go to the revenue chart that shows month by month by month, this one frustrates us a little bit because it's almost impossible to predict which month we will get our largest revenues and how much they'll be. I won't say that it's random, but permitting does tend to follow things like construction, but also how the economy is going, and then mortgage rates. Does the real estate, sector influence permit fees? Not directly, but this is a significant. This has got a $473,000 unfavorable variance to budget so far. So there's just nothing good. It seems to be trending upward. If you look January, February, March, those green, those gold bars. But that's me just reaching for optimism when there may not be any. So I'm just gonna report the facts. Well, but actually, if we had to forecast out where we think we're gonna end at the end of the year, this early in the year, it's hard. So I'm open to opinions, right?
So Director, if you don't mind, hold on. I'm going to allow some of the committee to actually, the council to actually have some questions, since we have plenty of time today, and this is something I
Absolutely.
think we need to talk about. I'll start with Council President Kochmar. You had your light on first.
Well, really, I just wanted to know, with all of our permits, we're not going to get any new permits, we're not going to have any new building. I'm just wondering, no REIT, because we probably won't be having, with the high interest rates, I don't see how we're going to have much sales on houses. And I'm just wondering how all of the taxes going through the legislature are going to be affecting our budget. Do you have any idea?
I don't. Yeah, did you see the email today about the property tax? Yeah. So that takes that hope away, or that optimism But that would have been.
Or
for-
makes it so we don't have to vote against it if it comes to our city.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and, you know, I talked to Keith Niven about how's the, I mean, I asked Keith what's in his crystal ball, who's he talking to that might result in some permit fees, and his people are busy, you know, they're working on stuff. The trend development that's in the tax increment finance area, that would freeze the property tax, but it wouldn't freeze, you know, permits and sales, but it hasn't moved forward. So, I don't have anything definitive for you, which is unsatisfying, but I'll be honest with you. Yeah, which I appreciate.
Councilmember Honda?
Thank you. So sales tax in Seattle fell before it hit us. Because I remember asking and saying, you know, that sales tax was falling in Seattle, they were having issues. And it was several months before we had an issue here.
Yeah.
I don't know why that happened, but that was interesting. For permit fees, I know there's a housing development going in by Sahali. I don't know how many homes, but there's quite a few. So they're just getting the land prepared now. So do permit fees come in when the homes start being built?
Oh, that's a Keith question. I don't know the timing exactly. And it may, and I think that we recognize it when we receive the cash, not before, so.
And there's also homes being built over by Federal Way High School. But once again, when does that permit money come in?
And you know, and off the top of my head, I can't remember the status of the Pape Kenilworth facility over next to the freeway that I don't think is open, and that would be a source of sales tax. So we know some things that are happening that still give us signs that there's progress or activity, economic activity.
So when downtown starts to be redeveloped, whenever that happens, at least by 2027 for the Target property, I mean, there is hope in the future,
Sure.
but it's 2025 now.
Sure. I mean, because and again, comparing to Seattle, we've been reading about a real, I don't want to know if the term exodus is the right word, but real estate vacancies in Seattle are significant. It would, yeah, we don't have that here. So, I mean, I'd much rather compare to cities that are more like us, Auburn and, you know.
So how are the other cities like us doing?
They're each a little bit depressed. The city, interestingly, the cities that, like SeaTac and Leavenworth, I was at a conference recently, they're fine. The ones that are, the ones that are tourist-based, because they are still seeing their normal tourism, but those are also much smaller budgets than ours, so. Ours is much more diversified.
All right, so I suppose if you could ask Keith, you know, for the housing developments that are going, that I know of two, there
Sure.
might be more, when the permit money does come in, I would be interested in that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Can I comment on that? One thing that you might think about is if there's nothing in the dirt being built right now, it takes 120 days before you start to finish minimum. So if they start building houses, we're gonna see it in
3
October,
months.
the month, you know,
3-4
we'll see
months.
permits, but it's October, November, December before you see any, because they're all dirt now. I mean, the Valleys is all dirt, and the places you're talking about are still dirt, and by Federal Way, there's one house I think they're building, they're across from the baseball field, so you'll see some, but we don't have any big projects like we used to, that we had. I mean, you got CFC Church maybe that's coming up sometime in the future, and Target, but those are probably a year off, and 26, 27.
Councilmember Walsh?
Yeah, and with that, kind of on that line, I mean, it seems like a big one will be when Sound Transit builds their maintenance yard. That will be considerable permitting fees there, won't it?
And when Sound Transit opens, does that bring a stream of people spending, eating? Yeah, we don't know.
There's no place to go stream and eat.
And with, you mentioned Pape Kenilworth. Do we know that will be the point of sale, that we'll have sales tax from there, or do we know anything about that for sure?
Yeah, certainly for repairs and maintenance, and I think sales.
Okay. All right.
Can we actually confirm that, have someone reach out and find out? I mean, because we've talked about this a couple months, I'd rather not know, I'd rather just have an ask
Sure.
and find out a definitive yes or no on that, please.
Sure, yeah. Yep. That someone's me.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we have an economic director coming on board, so it'll help out with that one too.
And we need to allow them a little bit of learning curve, although that's a way to learn, right?
Yep, jump in,
Yep, okay. Proceed.
please.
Real estate excise tax, who thought it hadn't gone up? Yeah, it actually did this month. Now, it is still a little bit unfavorable to budget, but it's significantly over prior year. And I think, yep, I think I've got my little graph there. I am just tickled with how much it bumped up in March. And do I have it, does it go over? Yep, year to date, yeah. For the 3 months cumulatively, that's how much we are over prior year. So it's not up to where it was in '22 and '23, but it's trending in it. We can use a few positive months. We had a real positive month back in December. I don't know what the properties are that caused the March increase. I do remember what the properties were in December, and they were commercial, of course. Lodging tax, there's not really much to talk about. And then, again, this graph, the scale is just 300,000 on our best years. We've been getting 300,000, but year over year, it seems to be inching up. Part of that could be price, but still, it's clearly recovered from the pandemic, where it really suffered for those 2 years when it was down. And then interest revenue. Interest revenue's a little bit unfavorable to budget, and it's under prior year, and the reason is because we've spent a lot of cash in the first couple of months that were one-times. The election expense, the insurance premiums, the IT, somewhat like the Axon stuff that we just saw. I projected that rates were going to be lower when we did our budget, and actually rates have still kind of stayed. Yep.
Did that, can you go back that chart?
Sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No, that's fine.
are you saying that we're 124,000 below what is budgeted? in
Below what
interest?
is budgeted, yeah.
So far, when I've told them my number, we're 1,200,000 upside down so far.
You've been adding all those numbers on each of these slides?
Right, plus, thinking of the money we had to make up the other day for the contract on the police. I mean, am I missing something there?
No, you're exactly right. You're exactly right, and that contract for the police has been on our mind since the
Well, I
beginning.
know, I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
saying that, that's
No,
not good or bad
no,
comment, I'm just,
No, because that's how,
Fact.
I'm just running the numbers you said,
Yes.
and $1.2 million is a lot of money with, we're into our, this is April, so we're 4 months into it?
yeah. And I've been sitting in the mayor's office with the city administrator, and the three of us have been contemplating the remainder of the year, or the budget amendment we need to do, where it's going to come from, what
Are we
we're
gonna
going to
have
do.
a hiring freeze?
I'm sorry?
I mean, we talked about having a hiring freeze?
We have,
I mean, how do we do that?
it is absolutely one of the levers that you can pull, and then when to pull it is the question, and do we think that and it depends on what we think about how the year's going to play out. It's absolutely one of you can do a hiring freeze, you can do hiring delays, you can also defer some of the materials or projects that we had in the budget if we think that's appropriate.
Okay, well, I mean, is there another, do we get to up to above 1.2 million? Is there another chart?
Yeah.
This is supposed to be the good chart.
Yeah, all I wanted to show you is that the Federal Reserve has done 3 rate cuts. They have not done one yet this year in 2025. They are being very slow. They're not bringing it down in a hurry like they did last time. And so that's one of the things that we know impacts real estate excise tax, but they're trying to manage inflation. On the investing, this is my daily tracking of where the 2-year, 3-year, and 5-year interest rates are. And really, the black line with the white dots is my 5-year investment that I make once a month. And it is still hovering around 4%. So from an investment standpoint, the rates, I can't say they've been stable. It has been quite a roller coaster. This shows from the beginning of the year till now. The 2-year and the 3-year are starting to fall lower. But that signals a return to normalcy, because we remember all of our lives, you could go to a bank and you'd get a higher rate for a 5-year CD than you would for a 3 or a 2 or a 1. So the idea that you get a higher yield for parting with your money for longer, that's a return to normal times. We're not there yet, but this is starting to get there. Some of these have been upside down at times. So we know that we're still seeing some turbulence and some uncertainty in the economy. That's the best way I can put it. Even, I mean, back before the national election in November, there was a lot of uncertainty. Well, now that we have the certainty, there's still a lot going on. Which brings us back to, we need to know our town. We need to know our local economy. We need to know our local residential market, or know our local commerce, what's happening. And so we do. We continue to be replacing investments that had lower yields. We replaced one in March that it was back 5 years or 3 years, however many years ago we bought it. The best we could get was 1.7, and of course we're getting 4.1 right now. I wanted to share with you, because we have time to talk, and I don't think we normally get to. I wanted to share with you a little bit that's going on in the finance department. We have 9 employees, and as you can see, I wanted to communicate how many of them are either new to the city or new to position. Besides me, we've got David, who's our accounting manager. We have an admin assistant, that's Chris, you know her. We have 3 financial analysts. And we say that we have 1 person doing payroll, 1 person doing accounts receivable, and 1 doing payroll. But because we're a small staff, we've kind of done a lot of kind of mixing and matching. Well, then I tried to say, well, okay, since Chase and Tooch left they left in October. If I looked at November, December, January, February, March, April, where have all of my vacancies been? When Chase and Tooch left, Chris was the first one that we hired in January. We were without an admin for the months of November and December. And then we promoted David in February. We went 3 months. We did a national search, and that took a lot of time. We had some, timing throughout the holidays where we had interviews cancel or whatnot, but we waited and we ended up filling the position with David. And then now promoting David just created a vacancy, so we rearranged the job duties of Eileen and Joy, who are our other 2 financial analysts. So they moved up and did the harder tasks, and then we had a vacancy for the things we could wait a bit on. And then we lost our payroll technician. And now, I want to point out that all 3, Tooch and Chase and Jen, they all left to go to other cities. You climb the ladder to other governments. Jen went to go work for the city of Lakewood. And so what we ended up doing is we ended up having a vacancy, and then we, let's see, what do I do? Oh, we brought Stacy in. Stacy, I'm not going to say we stole him from the city of Renton. He worked for one other employer before we hired him, but he brought with him city experience. He worked at the city of Renton, as did Chris. Chris also had worked at the city of Renton. We brought her back from Mississippi, but we are kind of stealing from other cities. But we still have 1 vacancy, and we've made the hire, and she starts on May 1st. But I just wanted to point out how many of our people are either in new jobs or new to position, doing things that they hadn't done before. What does that have to do with anything? When we have been getting behind on some things, some of the things we haven't been able. You've been asking questions, and we haven't made changes in our financial reporting. And I am just, we're in a state of rebuilding. I do want to point out that our processing, we have always been able to hit our deadlines. We have 1 accounts payable person, that's Danielle. We could really use more than 1, because we do over 600 checks sometimes per check batch. You see them in the voucher register. We've got 2 people that we use for payroll, because we kind of split our receivables and our payroll so that they back up each other. That gives me redundancy, and that's important. And we even ask them to do some of our accounts payable entries. So we've got people wearing multiple hats. And then, of course, because of internal controls, if you got people doing stuff, you got to have people reviewing it. So Chase left, and then Jen left, and then we realized, oh, no, now we only have one person doing payroll. She can't really help out with accounts payable, so we got real thin. We started using our admin to do accounts payable entry. David started doing review, as did Stacy. And then we've even, I'm not whining, I'm not complaining, but I do AP or input timesheets. We've been kind of thin ever since November 1st, but we are rebuilding. We still have that one vacancy to recover. And then all of the other things, this is my succession plan. This is my redundancy with three financial analysts and David and Chris and me. All of the things that need doing, all of these things, we need to make sure that more than one of us is either handling or growing in. So on top of that, I know that we have a 2024 audit coming up. We do have to be dealing with the Eden replacement on top of our normal day jobs. We're working on being part of the team that's going to be helping to open up the farmers market. We're setting up the banking and the accounting. And internal training is just really, really important to me. They don't teach government accounting in colleges. They don't teach it in CPA programs. Back when I was looking at the Seattle's financials, I found another reason why we really can't compare ourselves to other cities. I am astounded. They have 714 people in their finance department. We are lean here. When you ask us for things, there's a few things that I know that we still do owe you. We owe you an Eden financial system replacement update. We owe you a utility tax rebate proposed update. I have been working on that. I've been talking to Lake Haven is the only one I've been able to talk to about getting an update on actual utility rates. We normally bring you a first quarter budget amendment to this meeting. We say we've closed the quarter in March. And then we also bring our carry forward, all the items that were in the 2024 budget that are unspent, we bring them forward. We've pushed that back here, and that comes out of my discussion with the mayor and the city administrator and our discussion over revenue. So before we bring those to you, we need to have a recommendation that we really stand behind and think has a high probability of success. And then if you noticed, there was sales tax analysis. You guys often ask some very specific questions about the different sectors, and we realized that the database that we're operating with is getting kind of dated, needs some correction, and I didn't have the financial analysts to spend time to fix that. We took the chart out of your packet. It's just not there because it was wrong and we need to fix it. So we know that this is what I can think of that I owe you before I ask you, what am I missing? And I don't think you're going to be shy.
No, we'll start with Councilmember Honda, and then we
Yeah.
have plenty of time, so I'd like to open it up to all council members who have a lot of questions, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's the end of my report.
Thank you, and I do appreciate the time you put into vouchers. I know I gave them to you a day late this week, but it was what it was. So
Well,
thank
we-
you for getting them out so
We answer the
quickly. questions
questions we can find fast answers to. That gets us that gets us off our plate.
So I have like three questions. Property tax is something we depend on. A few years ago, I was looking into property taxes in Federal Way and realized there were some big businesses that were not paid property tax every year. And apparently King County does not inform us when a property tax is not paid.
Yeah.
So, because cities do depend on property taxes, is there any way that we can be informed of when those taxes are not paid and how much we should have been receiving so that we know in the future what should be coming in?
Yeah, I think our team has a good relationship with the King County Assessor's Office. I don't know that they do that for any of the cities. I'm not going to say we're an inconsequential city, but I don't think that's something that they do. But I am reassured by the fact that they don't write off receivables. If somebody doesn't pay, then they keep it, and then when a property changes hands, they make sure that they get it, and so that's how we know that we ultimately
Right.
do get it. But to be informed, I don't know that we've had any success in being able to find any of that. I don't know that they really track that city by city either.
And then,
Yeah, because we don't have an auditor, and they may, but I don't know that they do it city by city.
well, it's just something that as cities are struggling
Yeah.
right now.
Yes. Tracking it against budget, though, we still do look at it every month, although I'm just looking at it, I think we're a little bit behind, but I think that's just timing. Ultimately, we almost always get the exact amount of the levy, plus or minus a little bit, so, yeah.
Last month, I asked how much money we had received for the Target property from Trent. I'm still curious as to how much we've received for that property.
Yeah, and I was just talking to Keith about that today. That transaction has not happened, the old Target property, right?
Right.
Yeah, that transaction has not happened. He is talking to Trent. We still don't know what the timing. Yeah,
So I know that they have until 2027 to at least get a building permit.
yeah, and if they don't, then the whole deal becomes void. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
But I would like, so we haven't received anything then at this point.
Correct, yes, until yeah, we haven't received anything yet, and I don't
So
know.
then, is it our responsibility to maintain that property until they actually pay us for the property, the transaction?
To vacate the property?
No, to maintain the property.
Oh, maintain, yeah, yeah.
So it's ours to maintain until something happens.
I think so, we're delving into contract details, but yeah. But I can tell you that policing it is less than it used to be, and so is the Parks Department is spending less effort than they used to now that it's not inhabited or broken into or vandalized.
And then Councilmember Dovey asked an interesting question about freezing positions. I know that there are several cities around us that have not only frozen positions, but they let people go, or they have people on furlough one day a month. How many vacant positions do we have in the city of Federal Way?
Oh, gosh, it's a changing number, it really is. And Pete, I mean, you got a complicated answer from the police chief.
Very
and-
complicated.
Yeah, yeah. It feels like we're seeing quite a bit of turnover. You saw my department, I showed you my turnover, so that means I've had savings. Other departments are similar, and it's just a moving target. I go over to HR, and I could ask on any given day, how many recruitments do we have open? And the number changes weekly, so
Well, if we could just get a snapshot of it, it would be, because I know when, in 2022 and 23, we had a high turnover, like in the 20s.
yeah,
I don't know what it was in 24,
yeah.
but I do know that we do have a high turnover of employees. And, I mean, currently, we have had 3 directors who have left. And I'm sure that impacts our financial picture because we're probably paying out termination funding for those positions.
Yeah, with each term, with many retirements, there is a bank of vacation or something to be paid out, which may kind of make up for the salary savings of the recruitment. It's hard to tell.
But if in the future we are going to be freezing positions to protect the city, it would be nice to know how many we have vacant at this point.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
I think this is probably a ballpark figure, but there's 26 jobs listed on the website right now. So that's a pretty close number to how many vacancies we have.
Councilmember Dovey.
thank you. That's a public number we can, yeah. I also want to be careful with public messaging. Yeah,
That's the number of jobs listed.
perfect, perfect.
Yeah, I just got a couple questions. And maybe the questions don't have to do with the report. I don't know if we should just pass the report and then ask questions, and we can keep going, I guess.
This is the last agenda item, so.
Okay, well, I have a couple questions. Councilmember Honda brought up the point about the Trent, and it hasn't, I guess it officially has been awarded, but it hasn't officially closed, right? Because no money's transpired, is that correct?
We have a signed development agreement with them.
Yeah, we have a signed.
So I'm not sure I don't remember what the liabilities were on each side of the ledger as far as maintaining the property until they took possession. So that's why I couldn't answer the question before.
Yeah.
But we do have a signed development agreement.
Right, no, I understand that, but my only question, because I haven't thought about it for a long time, is we have an agreement, a development agreement, that we gave them until 27 or whatever it was to do it, so they're in their contract, they're committed, they're fine. But if the money transferred, are we still paying on the money that we borrowed to buy the product? I mean, the dirt?
The loan.
Is the loan still in effect? The city's still
No,
paying
we-
the monthly, or is that still on our books?
We extinguished the loan. There was a lump sum, a balloon payment that came due. We paid it down. We gave ourselves an interfund
But-
loan,
But
expecting that,
did we pay it down with our money or their money?
our money,
There's an interfund, you said.
our money. We borrowed it
Yeah.
from our capital funds.
So we continue to pay ourselves.
Yeah, okay. I just
Interest.
couldn't remember. So we borrowed from ourselves and we're doing an interfund transfer somehow. Okay.
Can I follow up on that? So we have 3 years to pay an interfund loan back to us. So how many years are we into that?
2.5.
So we have 6 months to pay ourselves
Until,
back.
I want to say November of this year is when the 3 months come due. The enforcement on that, then we have to be able to explain to auditors what we're doing.
So how much is it that we have to find to pay?
It was, I believe it was $4.8 million, which if we got the 10 million, and our rationale was, we expected us to sell the property for $10 million, and we still do.
Right, we just don't have the
It's
cash in hand.
Right.
it's a
Okay.
timing issue, right?
Yes.
So we want to look at the probability of if it goes beyond the 3 years, what's the probability that it really happens? Is it really collectible? Does it affect the fiscal sustainability of the city? And do we really have a viable plan?
Thank you.
Okay. And then, and my last question to follow up, I did bring up, hiring freezes, and you never want to, if you don't have to, but I think it'd be good to get a briefing at the council meeting soon. I mean, because again, I just did rough numbers of how much we're out of sync. And maybe it's going to all turn next month, but I wouldn't, bet on it. And we should be prepared for, not filling, if we have 27 openings, of course, you can't not fill police. I mean, that's like the number one priority, and that might be the highest piece of it. But we should be at least thinking about that because it's coming, it's looming. And if we see these numbers next month, the same trend, that 1.3 million or 1.2 or 1.1 is going to be 1.5.
And
And
if I
now-
could, just to be clear, as to the 26 number, that's only 2 listings of police officers. So we have 1 listing for entry-level officers and 1 for
Yeah,
experienced
yeah.
officers.
And I'm
So
not.
there's more than just 2
Yeah.
openings for
Yeah,
officers.
okay. Okay, that's just my comment.
I appreciate the dialogue. That's why I bring you these numbers, knowing that they're going to bring discussion, and we need to evaluate what we think about our city.
We know that you don't make the numbers up, you just report them. It just happens to be you have to answer the questions now.
Well, part of me is a scorekeeper, but part of me is a strategist. And when we talk forecasting, we need to have a discussion.
Gotcha. Councilmember Walsh.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, with those 24 vacancies that are listed, how many employees total do we have? Or if we were fully staffed in the city, how many do we have? So what percentage is that 24 vacancies of the total?
400, our total FTEs is 412,
412.
is budgeted.
Okay, so roughly 5% vacancy, somewhere in that ballpark anyway.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's fair.
all right. All right, thank you. And thanks for your report. I wouldn't want your job.
And I keep meaning to have David spend some time at the podium getting used to answering questions, but he had a cold, and plus he's been working some weekends, so I need to be nice to him.
I have one more question. Can you remind me when the first payment is due on the maintenance and operations bond?
The first debt payment on the operations and maintenance facility, I
Yes.
believe it's this December. It's significant, and it's in our budget, and it comes,
Well, we can have a great budget, but if we don't have the funding in the budget, then it doesn't.
Yeah, Hyleen has been doing our cash forecasting. Do you have any idea, or should we look it up? Yeah,
So December.
it's December, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
thanks.
We always make our debt payments. We will defer construction projects before we miss a debt payment.
Good policy.
All right, so no seeing no comments, I'm going to make mine now. It's kind of interesting when you chair, you got to wait till the end, so most of my good questions got asked already.
I was wondering why you were so quiet.
Yeah, I got to give them an opportunity every
You
now and
okay?
then. Yeah, I did do some reviewing. I looked at 3 different months or different periods of time for looking at the financial reports. I used a 2019, I used one from December, so it had last year's, and I used the month this one and kind of reviewed a couple of them. There is some items on the report themselves I'd like to discuss with you, probably offline. There is some stuff in 2019 that provided a better, what I would believe, picture of it, with the expenses not being single line itemed, but actually was broken out. And I know in order to build these single line items, there has to be a larger chart that does it. So there's a couple items on it. I did get to meet with a resident today who loves looking at our financial reports too. We get a lot of emails from the gentleman too.
What are you
And-
saying, it's not just you?
Yeah, not just me, but there was some concerns, and there was some actual praise on the way the designs are and stuff like that. So there's some good stuff on that one. The one thing I'm going to point out though is the last time we actually hit our budget numbers for sales tax was February, March of 2024, and those are the only 2 months. So I mean, and if I didn't go back another year from that one, so there is, and I've brought it up multiple times, a major concern. And one of the things I'd love to see in here is, what is the game plan? I have asked in the past, and I've been told there's nothing to worry about for future stuff. I'm pessimistic on this one. When it comes to numbers, I'm always like, I'd rather have a game plan in play, and instead of having to try to make it up at the fly. The only item I'm going to add to the list that you did not have on there for things that we've asked for, one of them was the city positions by department that was mentioned, just to get an idea of where we're at for staffing. And the other one was an economic development update. So that was the other aspect of knowing where a lot of that ARPA money is sitting and where the projects are. I've heard some things I'd like to know what the actual facts are and what position we're at with some of those projects.
And we did have several economic development items proposed for this agenda, and then we postponed it to next month, partially because the new director hasn't started, partially because the city administrator and people want to have someone present and have a discussion with you that can make some commitments.
Gotcha. And then out of that one, just for clarification from legal, how does the putting together an agenda work for a committee? I know it's a little bit different for the council meetings, but when it comes to this, when we put them in, usually I send them to the chair, I'll send them to the president, but I've never understood what the process and who makes the final say and how things get put on and off other than that, so.
The chair makes the final say.
Okay.
So usually how it works is staff will communicate with the chair, and they'll work together. Staff drives most of the agenda items, like the vast majority of them. But if the chair has items to add, the chair can add them.
Okay, is that what you're going to say?
And if I could follow up just one
So you
item.
being the temporary chair can put on the agenda.
That's why I shot the email out last month. But now that I know that, it was one of those things I didn't know what the proper steps are on that.
And the economic development update, we did take seriously, we did have it on the agenda, and it just got bumped to next month. And I think next month, we're going to have a much longer FedRec meeting because we have a lot, there were some things that came through lodging tax that were initially on this meeting, and we need to, those will come back next month also. I want to make sure that you are hearing me when I'm not saying everything's fine, nothing to worry about with revenue.
It wasn't you.
Okay, that's fine, yeah, because what I want you to hear is that we're having discussions internally with the mayor and the city administrator, and we are concerned.
But I also read through an AWC
Everything is not
report.
okay.
Yeah. I read through an AWC report, and one of them is letting us know what's going on. And sometimes I feel like I get let known when I'm up here. I'd rather know way beforehand if possible. But other than that, like I said, man, it's facts, and that's kind of what we look at. And I just like to see what kind of game plans. And then I'm also curious on the financial software, because I think there's some savings and some automation that could be done that will benefit the city long-term, but that's an expensive process and a time commitment, and I would like to know what's going on with that one while I still have the opportunity to on that.
Yeah, Thomas and I met with Brian Davis, gave him a briefing, and we're with an eye towards bringing up an update here. We're not there yet.
Understood. No more questions, and
I
I'll,
have one question.
oh, sorry, let me see your light.
That's okay. Last month, I believe, we asked about the grant writer, and Brian Davis said that the contract had expired, even though it's in the budget for '25. Do you know anything about that? Are we still applying for grants or with the grant writing company, or what's going on?
Yeah, I would have to go ask Brian about that, because I know he's having discussions with every single department head about grants, so, yeah, I don't know the answer.
Do we get a final report from the company that we had as to what grants we actually got, or what grants they actually got? Because I know we have departments who go after their own grants here.
Yeah.
And it would be interesting to see what grants this company actually got for us.
Yeah, and I think that will be at next month's FedRec. I think that was one of the items we bumped also.
Okay, thanks.
Before I make the motion, I kind of heard everybody up here, maybe just listening to myself, but hiring freeze is something that's of interest, and how many open positions. So I'd hope that message gets back to the, you talk to Jim and Brian, and because you all heard it, and maybe, am I peeking out of turn? Maybe we should send that message?
I can convey that
Okay.
message.
Can you convey that message?
Absolutely,
you.
absolutely.
Okay. My phone
Thank you
just-
for your concern, thank you for the discussion, thank you for the dialogue. You can't make me speculate, but you can make me forecast, and I try.
Okay. So I move to forward the March 25 monthly financial report to the May 6th, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
I'll second that motion. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. That completes our council, committee business. Is there any other options or items that council would like to bring up? Seeing none, future agenda, next meeting will be May 27th, 2025. With that, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.